Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to this month's edition of the Academy on Air series. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is a monthly bite-sized series. It's about a 10 to 15-minute webinar where we look at covering some best practices and tips on a Google product or offering. As a reminder, at the end of this, we'll be sending out a PDF version of the presentation, so you don't have to be scribbling and taking notes while I'm talking. You'll get the presentation on your own. And lastly, while I'm talking, you may have questions or concerns. Feel free to type in any questions in the question and answer box, and then I'll be able to answer them at the end. So definitely don't be shy. The sooner you put them in, the better. All right, so let's get started. My name is Amanda Melvin, and I work on our large customer sales team here in Canada, focusing on retail, and as well as Google Shopping. Today I'm going to walk you through a newly launched product, which is really exciting, called Local Inventory Ads, which I sometimes call LIAs or LIAs. This product is just designed to match local customer intent in the moments that matter with store inventory, price, and availability information. So today we're going to cover what are local inventory ads or LIAs and how to set up an LIA campaign and optimize it. So local inventory ads or LIAs are the local information that people ask for. We know that from our Ipsos Google holiday study, 38% of holiday shoppers that bought in-store used a smartphone to search for products and service information. We also know that 44% of shoppers wish that retailers could do a better job sharing inventory information. Well, the good news is LIAs actually do help retailers provide this information to customers, and when they do, the retailers themselves see an upside. So where local inventory information was provided in the US, retailers actually saw a 3 times increase in the click-through rate and an 80% improvement in the CPA or cost per acquisition. So our recommendation to you is to use local inventory ads to drive increased ad engagements, clicks, as well as store visits, which is a really special and important piece here. And then take advantage of that local location-based targeting features to really drive performance to a specific store. I'm going to just pause for a brief moment and talk you through how an LIA works. So if you search for something in the Google search bar, like a Fitbit nearby, as you can see in the left image here, what might show up is a number of our local inventory ad formats. So here you can see that there's a Fitbit that's shown up in the first slot with that little blue bar on the top, which indicates how far away the searcher is at this moment from a store which sells a Fitbit and has that Fitbit in stock and available. Now, perfect. That's exactly what you might want. So if you click through on that ad right there, what happens on the right side is you're going to see a Google-hosted local storefront. What this means is it's pulled in information from the retailer's feed, or feeds actually, with the relevant information for the user. So here you can see there's a photo of the Fitbit, there's the price. It also includes store information for where that stock is stock is available nearby. So it's pulled in store hours, and then this retailer has actually opted in to provide a pick up in store feature, and so it still gives that opportunity to buy online and pick up in store. So as you can see, this is a lot more information than the typical customer might get from this type of a search. So it's really highly relevant. When we're thinking about local inventory ads, there are a couple ad formats to think about, and there's a couple complexities here. So I'm going to highlight the differences in our local and online product offering. So I'm going to start all the way on the right with our online Google Shopping ads. You'll be familiar with these if you're currently live and supporting online inventory using Google Shopping. These leverage information provided in a feed to surface that information for relevant queries that might be typed into Google search. And then when you click on these ads, as you're used to, they're going to go directly to the retailer's website. Next left, what you've got here is a local inventory ad. And so this is the new type of format that would show up to provide information about products that are sold in stores. Again, this might be different than the online product offering. And so if you were to click on this ad, it would direct to that local storefront, which has information about where the store, which store this product is available at, what that store hours might look like. And again, this local inventory ad would only show up within driving distance of a store. And that would be populated on that blue bar right across the top. And in Canada, that will actually show as kilometers, not miles. The last on the left is a multi-channel shopping ad. So this is where things get really complicated. The multi-channel shopping ad provides two options for your click. If you click on the in-store link at the bottom, you'll be directed to the local storefront, just like with the local inventory ad, with information specifically about which store that's available at, what the hours are, price, all of that information. However, if you click elsewhere on the ad, you're going to be driven to the retailer's website where it will have information about buying the product online. There's a note on multi-channel shopping ads just to consider. It's that they do not show on mobile phones. Okay, so now that we've gone through the format, it's time to think about how we would go about setting up an LIA campaign. So if we look at all of the options, again, on the left, here's what you're probably already doing with Google Shopping. This is for your online inventory. Until this time, until today, we haven't really been able to provide local inventory information through Google Shopping because you've always had to be able to buy that, the product that's been featured online. Now, with the local ad format options, there's a couple other options to think about. So on the left, there's the online inventory only strategy, which we can think about. So we've got the local shopping ads on the right side, which provides local only inventory. Or on the left here, within the local ad format options, we provide a multi-channel strategy, which would go provide information about products that are available both online and in store. And so deciding which strategy you want to pick is actually a really important choice. And it's worth taking a step back and really thinking about what the retailer's needs are and what suits that retailer the most. So moving forward, the local campaign strategy is best suited for merchants who have separate online and offline merchandising and marketing teams. They have separate offline budgets and success KPIs. They have a strong in-store assortment. And again, we'd recommend a separate local campaign strategy if they rely on auto bidding tools for their online campaign. So the big thing here to think about is if you're using auto bidding on your existing Google Shopping campaign, you're going to be optimizing to conversions most likely, which is going to drive your e-com success. So if we're coming up with a local campaign strategy to support driving customers to store, there's no means by which we can currently optimize to store visits, which is why we recommend a different campaign strategy for local. We're going to go through this local campaign strategy in detail now because this is actually the strategy we most recommend for retailers starting out on local inventory ads. This is because local inventory ads are best developed around driving to store and a drive to store focus, and so separating out the results is possible using this strategy. So if I was going to set up a local campaign strategy, what I would do is I would duplicate my existing shopping campaign structure, or if I'm starting from scratch and had never had shopping campaigns before, I'd set up a new shopping campaign supporting all categories. Then within settings, you can go in and actually enable the local inventory ads through this feature here called Enable Local Inventory Ads. And you're going to set up an inventory filter which says channel is local. This is really important that it's an inventory filter for channel and not channel exclusivity. The next thing you think about when you're setting up this campaign strategy is that you really want to make sure that you support all of your products that are available in store. And so make sure you have an all products campaign to make sure all inventory is available to serve. And then the last thing to note here that might be different again than your shopping campaign strategy at present is that you want to be using manual bidding or maximize clicks to drive performance. Don't opt into conversions to auto bidding towards conversions because again, we want to be maximizing clicks and really optimizing to store visits. So again, just to think about this, if you look at the way the ad serves across devices, this strategy is going to make sure that you show up on desktop, tablets, and mobile exclusively around stores where you would be able to drive to store and pick up that item. And no ad format would show if that inventory item was out of stock. Okay, so for our strategy tips, again, local only is the preferred setup for departments funding drive to store separate from e-com, as this lets you really control, optimize, and report on performance separately from your e-com program. The thing you have to think about with your local strategy is it is different than your online strategy, and it requires a very different approach to bidding. So we actually recommend you set a 20% higher base bid than your average Google Shopping bid and adjust the mobile bid modifiers to plus 100% to drive store visits. This is because, again, these campaigns will only show, these ads will only show in a certain radius around stores. And so it's really important that you are optimized to showing sort of at a more local level. And then setting up separate campaigns here will help optimize for specific goals. The last thing is just make sure you're mirroring specific programs that are happening in store to make the most of LIA and local campaigns. For example, make sure you've set up maybe priority campaigns for seasonal items or featured in store, end caps or circular or flyer items. And you can even use local inventory ads to drive inventory relief if you're looking to have certain inventory sold from the store faster. So those are some specific local inventory campaign strategy tips. I'm going to go through briefly the multi-channel campaign strategy. So this would be best suited for merchants who have omni-channel merchandising teams. This really means that you need to have both omni-channel budgets and omni-channel success KPIs, so you're constantly optimizing across channels and not for one channel specifically. The other reason that a multi-channel campaign might be good is if you have a really strong omni-channel assortment. So what's available online is always available in store and vice versa. There's more information in the appendix where you can find other resources detailing how you would set up a multi-channel campaign. So I'm not going to go through this with you now. Instead, I'm going to cover campaign optimization for local inventory ads. So there's a couple tips that we've already alluded to that are best for local inventory ads. First off, we'd recommend really bidding higher to reach shoppers closer to your stores. So we call this location-based bidding or bid by distance. And you can set this up in the settings tab of your campaign to help increase bids for shoppers closest to your stores. There's a lot of evidence to support the fact that people close to your stores are more likely to go to store to find what they need. And so this just makes sure you surface for those particular shoppers. The second option would be use ad scheduling to increase bids when stores are open. Now, I'm going to get right ahead of this just out of the gates here. We don't actually recommend you turn off when your stores are closed because we know that local inventory ads are often helpful when people are planning a shopping trip. So I might be searching for something while I'm at work, planning to shop after work. And again, or at night and so on. So you want to make sure you're always on. Just make sure that you're showing up more in those key hours when your stores are open. The next option, again, I mentioned this before, is to bid higher by device, specifically on mobile. So as local inventory ads are a mobile first ad format, we recommend a store mobile bid modifier of at least 100%. It's because you really want to make sure that you're showing up in those mobile shopping options. Now, with shopping and with local inventory ads in particular, there's a lot of additional information that you can provide back to your retailer, which they're gonna love because it's that much more involved store level information that you might not have otherwise been able to provide. So under the Dimensions tab, if you view by shopping, you can actually click on the store ID to find store level performance of your local inventory ad campaigns. You can also download this report with a segment for click type, so you can see which specific formats are driving the best performance. So when I say download by click type, just to review briefly here, these go back to those formats I outlined at the beginning. So in a multi-channel unit, which is shown on top, a click on the top portion would show as a shopping ad multi-channel online click. On the bottom, it would say shopping ad multi-channel local. Then there's your standard shopping ad, which is your Google Shopping or PLA click. And then on the left there, that would be your shopping ad local click. So that you would see all those different types of clicks in your report. So as I mentioned, bidding is really important and you have to come up with a local bid strategy that's differentiated from your online strategy. So for local only campaigns, we recommend using manual bidding or max clicks bidding until Google comes out with an optimization to bid for store visits, which we do believe is coming soon. So we recommend using really strong base bids in addition to bid modifiers like location, device, or ad scheduling for local inventory ads, as these are shown near store locations and are shown at a much more granular geographic level where there might be more competition for that click. In addition, one of the things we don't recommend is using third-party or auto-bidding tools, because these tools aren't yet optimized for local inventory ads, and they don't consider offline visits, offline conversions, or omni-channel ROAS to optimize bids. Okay, so when you're interpreting the measurement and when you're reporting back on success, there's one thing that you're going to need to do on top of just pulling a report, which is you're going to need to make the assumptions to provide that offline impact number. So if you start with your online spend, you can track store visits for your at a campaign level, but then you should make an assumption about what your in-store conversion rate and in-store average order value might be. So in this example, if you spent $1,000 to drive 100 store visits, when you dig into that data, maybe you've been provided with an in-store conversion rate of 50% and an in-store AOV of $100, then you would know that you could have driven $5,000 of in-store sales through your ad campaign, which actually provides a 5-to-1 offline ROAS. You can also combine this against online spend. So you can say if your online sales and online ROAS was 3-to-1 and your in-store sales and offline ROAS was 5-to-1, you can determine your omni-channel ROAS was actually 8-to-1 and combine that and provide sort of really neat reporting up to your retailer to report back on and measure the success of these campaigns. All right, so if I'm going to summarize what we've talked about today, there are basically just a handful of key takeaways. The first would be, it's really important to match strategy to your retailer's KPIs and funding model. In particular, don't necessarily say, oh, we know they're omni-channel, so we're going to use an omni-channel campaign structure. Really think about whether that is what the information that they're giving you and the funding model for this product. Again, we really recommend splitting out a local strategy first, because based on how things are set up in Canada, that's typically how a lot of retailers still think. The second would be opt in all local inventory to provide customers the best possible experience. Next, you would optimize for local by leveraging mobile bid modifiers, opening hour bid modifiers, and geo-targeting. And then lastly, you're going to tie success back to in-store metrics, revenue, through assumptions of in-store AOV and conversion rate. All right, so again, here's some of these ongoing resources I mentioned. I'd say thank you guys so much for joining. These online resources are available and will be in this presentation when we share it afterwards. In particular, I really recommend the first one. It's a video playlist that goes through all the nitty-gritty details, including how to set up your feeds for local inventory ads, which is a really significant piece about getting ready for LIA, but that we didn't cover here in the interest of time. So now I'm going to go through any questions that we might have received. Let's just take a look here. Okay, so I've got a handful of questions. So my first question is, how do I get started on LIA campaigns? And that's actually a great question. So to get started, the first thing you can do is you can call your Google rep. We have a lot of resources that we can send you to help you prepare. I'd say the biggest piece to just get ready for LIA campaigns is that you really need to get your feeds in order. Instead of just using one online products feed, which is what you might currently use for Google Shopping, for LIA campaigns, you actually require 4 feeds. So it is a little bit more involved and there's specific requirements there. So again, reach out to your Google rep and we can get you the information you need to populate these feeds with the necessary information. From there, setting up the campaigns is not so complicated. The second question here is, what is the ideal budget for LIA campaigns versus PLA campaigns? Now, that's a really good question. I'd say basically your ideal budget will depend on a couple things. Firstly, some retailers might have much more available in-store than online. So if LIA really expands that inventory assortment available to consumers, then you might want to budget more for LIA versus PLA. But it will really depend on the depth of your feed, the depth of what your assortment looks like online versus offline, and your retailer's goals. But I'd say you could start somewhere similar to PLA. And again, you can speak to your Google rep for recommendations there. Mike, I see you've asked, are local inventory ads coming to Canada soon? So I am telling you this now. They are coming to Canada shortly. They're actually launching in Canada in the next few months. So definitely a good time to start getting this ready for any retailers that you work with in Canada. We're really excited about the launch. And we know that there are a lot of retailers that are already sort of excited and starting to prepare their feeds to go live as soon as possible. And then I did get a question about how is driving distance defined. And so I know I mentioned that some ad formats will only show up within driving distance of a store. We don't actually provide the exact distance in terms of a kilometer radius around stores, but it is a relatively reasonable distance where you might be able to drive to a store. It's nothing too long or extended, but there isn't specific information I can release about exactly what that distance is. And so with that, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for your engagement here. I hope that you enjoyed the brief Academy series here, and please join in again next week. Thanks so much.